Hey, it's Jamie East here from the Smart 7, and today's episode is brought to you by Pension Bee and their award-winning Pension Confident podcast. Getting your head around pensions might seem overwhelming, but that's where Pension Bee comes in. They're on a mission to build pension confidence. So whether you're just starting on your pension journey, you're nearing retirement, or like me, you're somewhere a little bit in between, then you should have a listen to the Pension Confident podcast. It's an award-winning podcast that digs into topics that really matter with the help of financial experts. So that could be the basics of how pensions, ISAs or mortgages work, and things like how to get started on saving for a happy retirement. And a bit like the Smart 7 does with the news, they break down complex pensions finance into language that we can all understand. You can listen or download the Pension Confident podcast wherever you get your podcast from, or you can watch the episodes on YouTube. And remember, anything discussed on the podcast shouldn't be regarded as financial or legal advice, and when investing, your capital is at risk. On today's Smart 7, Keir Starmer reshuffles and refocuses, rescuers struggle after Afghan earthquake, and much more. It's Tuesday, 2nd of September, it's Pierce Your Ears Day, and happy birthday, Keanu Reeves.
The Smart 7. It's news, but
not the news.
After a summer break, Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced a new reset for his government on Monday. He's done a bit of cabinet reshuffling, promoting Treasury Secretary Darren Jones to a new position of Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister and rearranged the team at Downing Street. He also spoke to Matt Chorley at 5 Live and laid out his views on the migrant crisis and the need to reclaim the English flag from far-right protesters.
It's a really serious issue. We have to have control of our borders. When it comes to the asylum hotels, I want them emptied. I've been really clear about that. I completely understand why people are so concerned. The difference here is between an orderly, sensible way of actually fixing a problem we inherited from the Tories or fanciful arrangements that are just not going to work.
Monday afternoon in the Commons saw Home Secretary Yvette Cooper announce changes to the migration system. She is tightening up the rules on refugee family reunions, describing them as unsustainable and flagging that a new asylum policy is on the way. Charities were immediately critical of the decision, but the Home Secretary says it's important that systems don't become overwhelmed.
It is little wonder that people right across the country lost confidence in the system and demanded to know why they were paying the price. But that does not mean that people rejected the long and proud history of Britain doing our bit.
The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen appears to have been targeted by Russia using GPS jamming to interfere with the satellite navigation systems on her plane. She has been on a tour of EU countries bordering on Russia and Belarus, and the incident happened over Bulgaria, forcing her pilots to resort to paper maps and circle for an hour before landing safely. Meanwhile, Russian President Putin was in China, where he hinted at an agreement that was reached with Donald Trump at their recent Alaskan summit.
We value the efforts and propositions to solve the Ukrainian crisis of China, India and other strategic partners of ours. The mutual understanding that was reached at a recent Russia-US summit in Alaska heads the same direction.
It's not clear what Putin is referring to, but the Ukrainian side are increasingly concerned as no additional US aid or commitments on security guarantees appear to be forthcoming. EU leaders are due to meet in Paris on Thursday to discuss next steps, but Donald Trump's former national security advisor John Bolton wasn't sounding optimistic.
I think the whole thing is collapsing. I think the chances for peace in Ukraine are probably worse now than they were before the Alaska summit. The real fundamental cause of his invasion of Ukraine was NATO, to try and restructure NATO. That's what he really wants, as well as possession of Ukraine.
A magnitude 6 earthquake hit the mountainous region of Kuna in Afghanistan early on Monday morning. The quake hit several provinces close to the eastern border with Pakistan, and at least 800 people are believed dead and thousands injured. The shallow quake appears to have caused serious destruction, leaving roads blocked and sparking landslides. Rescuers are struggling to access the region, with Taliban officials urging humanitarian organisations to offer assistance by air. Local journalist Ali Latifai says with people still buried under rubble, rescuers are desperate to save survivors.
The government has been running helicopters to and from the disaster sites, transferring people to the regional hospital in Jalalabad. And in the meantime, the people, they're basically digging with their hands and whatever they can find in their homes.
Monday saw a majority of the world's leading genocide scholars vote to back a resolution that Israel's actions in Gaza meet the legal definition of genocide. 86% of the 500-member International Association of Genocide Scholars agreed with the motion and have called on Israel to immediately cease all acts that constitute genocide, war crimes and crimes against humanity. The resolution also calls for a lifting of the blockade on aid and a halting of the forced displacement of the population. The Israeli Foreign Ministry dismissed the report and the resolution, describing it as based on Hamas lies and called it an embarrassment to the legal profession. Former Scottish First Minister Humza Yousaf told the Spectator's podcast that the British government needs to respond.
At least 60,000 Gazans have been killed. We know that there is a policy of deliberate starvation. How do you justify the continued selling of arms?
Still to come on today's Smart 7, in association with Metro, the transfer window slams shut and Dwayne Johnson branches out. Right after this. Hey, it's Jamie East here from the Smart 7, and today's episode's brought to you by Pension Bee and their award-winning Pension Confident podcast. Getting your head around pensions might seem overwhelming, but that's where Pension Bee comes in. They're on a mission to build pension confidence. So whether you're just starting on your pension journey, you're nearing retirement, or like me, you're somewhere a little bit in between, then you should have a listen to the Pension Confident podcast. It's an award-winning podcast that digs into topics that really matter with the help of financial experts. So that could be the basics of how pensions, ISAs or mortgages work, and things like how to get started on saving for a happy retirement. And a bit like the Smart 7 does with the news, they break down complex pensions finance into language that we can all understand. You can listen or download the Pension Confident podcast wherever you get your podcast from, or you can watch the episodes on YouTube. And remember, anything discussed on the podcast shouldn't be regarded as financial or legal advice, and when investing, your capital is at risk. Welcome back. The summer transfer window slammed shut on the Premier League on Monday at 7 p.m. Before the window closed, Liverpool finally managed to land Alexander Isak from Newcastle after months of wrangling for the bargain price of £125 million. There was good news for Man United fans as they picked up a new goalkeeper, as did Manchester City. Away from football, Monday saw European Ryder Cup captain Luke Donald announce the final members of his squad for the showdown with the US in New York at the end of September. He ended up with 11 of the 12 players who won in Rome in 2023, including fan favourite Shane Lowry, and the captain was sounding confident.
Well, if they're not ready, then it's my fault. I've been spending 20 months trying to get them ready for this. We understand it's going to be a hugely tough environment. New Yorkers bring the noise, they bring the energy.
The Venice Film Festival is on this week, with an all-star cast accepting the traditional standing ovations for their movies. So far, we've had a new Guillermo del Toro movie, Frankenstein, new George Clooney and Adam Sandler movie, Jay Kelly, and Jude Law playing Vladimir Putin in The Wizard of the Kremlin. The surprise hit with critics, though, is a movie called The Smashing Machine, which stars Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt and seems to have real emotional depth. The man formerly known as The Rock says he's decided it's time to explore new directions.
What I did realize is that the most important thing, I just had this burning desire that was saying, well, again, what if? And a lot of times it's harder for us to, or at least for me, sometimes to know what you're capable of when you've been pigeonholed into something.
There's a brand new show on the way from Stephen Knight, the creator of Peaky Blinders, called The House of Guinness. At first, you might think there can't be much in common with Cillian Murphy's band of hooligans and the aristocracy who owned Guinness, but you'd be wrong. The first trailer suggests that it's got all the fire and fight of Peaky Blinders, just with better tailoring. It stars Louis Partridge and Anthony Boyle as the dueling brothers from the Black Stuff, and it drops on Netflix on September 25th.
I, Sir Benjamin Lee Guinness, hereby give all my brewery concerns to my 2 sons.
The death of your father has served to poke a stick in a hornet's nest.
Children Sir Benjamin leaves behind are weak and divided.
Spes mea in Deo. Love is our hope.
You've been listening to The Smart 7. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Hit that follow button and have a great day. Give us 7 minutes, we'll give you the world.
Consider this your sign to skip the what's for dinner debate tonight. Outback Steakhouse has a 3-course meal starting at just $14.99. Start with soup or salad, then take your pick of down-under entrees, like our juicy towering burger or flame-grilled shrimp. And for dessert, New York-style cheesecake, plus $8 cocktails all day, every day. 3 courses, starting at $14.99. Tell the group chat you'll see them at Outback. Price and participation may vary.